The Mona Lisa is considered an archetypal masterpiece of the Italian Renaissance. It has been described as the best known, the most visited, and the most written about work of art in the world. Why is this painting so famous? Who is the Mona Lisa? Are there two versions of the Mona Lisa? What are the symbols behind this painting? In this episode, we will try to answer these and other questions. Who is the Mona Lisa? The title of the painting, which is known in English as Mona Lisa, is based on the presumption that it depicts Lisa del Giocondo, although her likeness is uncertain. Renaissance art historian Giorgio Vasari wrote, Leonardo undertook to paint for Francesco del Giocondo the portrait of Mona Lisa, his wife. Lisa del Giocondo was a member of the Gherardini family of Florence and the wife of a wealthy Florentine silk merchant, Francesco del Giocondo. The painting is thought to have been commissioned for their new home and to celebrate the birth of their second son, Andrea. The Italian name for the painting, La Gioconda, means jocund, happy or jovial, a pun on the feminine form of Lisa's married name, Giocondo. Vasari's account of the Mona Lisa comes from his biography of Leonardo published in 1550, 31 years after the artist's death. It has long been the best-known source of information on the provenance of the work and identity of the sitter. Leonardo's assistant Salai, at his death in 1524, owned a portrait which in his personal papers was named La Gioconda, a painting bequeathed to him by Leonardo. The Catalogue Raisonné Leonardo da Vinci confirms that the painting probably depicts Lisa del Giocondo, with Isabella d'Este being the only plausible alternative. Several other people have been proposed as the subject of the painting, including Isabella of Aragon, Cecilia d'Alerani, Costanza d'Avalos, Duchess of Francavilla, Caterina Sforza, Salai, and even Leonardo himself. Psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud theorized that Leonardo imparted an approving smile from his mother, Caterina, onto the Mona Lisa and other works. The painting. Before revealing the symbols that this painting hides, let's talk about the painting itself. The Mona Lisa bears a strong resemblance to many Renaissance depictions of the Virgin Mary, who was at that time seen as an ideal for womanhood. The woman sits markedly upright in a pozzetto, armchair with her arms folded, a sign of her reserved posture. Her gaze is fixed on the observer. The woman appears alive to an unusual extent, which Leonardo achieved by his method of not drawing outlines, sfumato. The soft blending creates an ambiguous mood, mainly in two features, the corners of the mouth and the corners of the eyes. The painting was one of the first portraits to depict the sitter in front of a landscape, and Leonardo was one of the first painters to use aerial perspective. The enigmatic woman is portrayed seated in what appears to be an open loggia, with dark pillars based on either side. Behind her, a vast landscape recedes to icy mountains, winding paths, and a distant bridge give only the slightest indication of human presence. Leonardo has chosen to place the horizon line not at the neck, as he did with Ginevra de' Benci, but on a level with the eyes, thus linking the figure with the landscape and emphasizing the mischievous nature of the painting. The smile. Mona Lisa's smile has repeatedly been a subject of many interpretations. Many researchers have tried to explain why the smile is seen so differently by people. Professor Margaret Livingstone of Harvard University has argued that the smile is mostly drawn in low spatial frequencies, and so can best be seen from a distance or with one's peripheral vision. Thus, the smile appears more striking when looking at the portrait's eyes than when looking at the mouth itself. Others has argued that the secret is in the dynamic position of Mona Lisa's facial muscles, where our mind's eye unconsciously extends her smile. The result is an unusual dynamicity to the face that invokes subtle yet strong emotions in the viewer of the painting. The landscape. Leonardo's painting was one of the first portraits to represent the subject in front of a panorama considered by most to be imaginary. An interesting feature of the landscape is that it is not uniform. The left side is evidently placed lower than the right side. This fact has led some critics to believe that it was added later. Considering Leonardo's great attention to detail, many experts believe that it is not an invented background, but rather represents a very precise point in Tuscany. That is, where the Arno passes the Arezzo countryside and receives the waters of the Val di Chiana. There is a precise indication on the right of the Mona Lisa over the shoulder. It is a low bridge with several arches. That is, an ancient bridge humpbacked in Romanesque style. A bridge identical to the Buriano Bridge, which still today crosses the Arno. Leonardo knew this bridge well because he had studied this area in depth, as evidenced by a drawing dated between 1502 to 1503, which describes the Val di Chiana water basin, in which the bridge can also be glimpsed in Buriano. With a certain approximation starting from these elements, there are those who have reconstructed the perspective angle on the computer, identifying the village of Quaranta as the exact point of Leonardo's observation. Do you want to have the chance to be inspired by the Mona Lisa every day? In my online store, I sell framed wall art and posters of famous paintings, including the Mona Lisa. Use this code to get 10% off and support my channel. 2 versions of the Mona Lisa. The 2 Mona Lisa theory is a long-standing theory proposed by various historians, art experts, and others, that Leonardo da Vinci painted 2 versions of the Mona Lisa. Examination of historical documents indicates that one version was painted several years before the second. Proponents of the theory highlight a number of pieces of documentary and physical evidence. Among these is the fact that there are several paintings of which Leonardo is known to have painted 2 versions, and historical accounts such as Lomazzo's writing suggest that Leonardo similarly worked on 2 paintings, a Gioconda and a Mona Lisa. Also cited as a key piece of evidence is a contemporaneous sketch of the painting by Raphael, who observed the painting while visiting Leonardo's studio. The sketch contains characteristics differing from the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, including prominent columns that were initially argued to have been trimmed from the original. However, in 1993 it was demonstrated that the painting in the Louvre had never been trimmed. Some experts claim that Raphael saw a different version of the painting. Other descriptions by eyewitnesses and others living in the period have also been read as indicating that Leonardo painted 2 paintings of the subject of the Mona Lisa, with several characteristics differing from the painting in the Louvre. Several more recent examinations of the evidence have led other authors to similar conclusions. While it is possible that the first version was produced by Leonardo and later lost or destroyed, proponents of the theory have identified a number of existing alternative versions of the Mona Lisa as a candidates for having also been painted by Leonardo. These include versions more similar to the original, such as the Prado Mona Lisa, but more particularly those versions that closely resemble Raphael's sketch, such as the Vernon Mona Lisa and the Isleworth Mona Lisa, the latter having received the most substantial support. Proponents of the theory explain that the hypothetical first portrait displaying prominent columns would have been commissioned by Giocondo around 1503, of a younger sister Lisa del Giocondo being 23 years old, and left unfinished in the possession of Leonardo's pupil and assistant Salai, until Salai's death in 1524. The second, commissioned by Giuliano de' Medici around 1513, would have been sold by Salai to Francis I of France in 1518, and is the one in the Louvre today. One element that appears to have been resolved is the state of the eyebrows or eyelashes of the Mona Lisa. An expert noted that the absence of these features in the Louvre's Mona Lisa is contrary to Vasari's description of the eyebrows in the painting. They spring from the flesh, their varying thickness, the manner in which they curve according to the pores of the skin could not have been rendered in a more natural fashion. Some researchers accounted for this disparity by asserting that the subject never had eyebrows, and that it was common at this time for genteel women to pluck these hairs, as they were considered unsightly. In 2007, however, the French engineer Pascal Cotte announced that his ultra-high-resolution scans of the painting provide evidence that the Mona Lisa was originally painted with eyelashes and with visible eyebrows. but that these had gradually disappeared over time, perhaps as a result of overcleaning. Vasari also described red lips, of which Cotto was unable to find traces in the Louvre painting. The numbers behind the Mona Lisa. Silvano Vincetti claims he has found hidden letters and numbers within the Mona Lisa. The right eye has an L and a V, which some experts suggest might stand for Leonardo Vinci. On the left, the letter B, S, or C, E were found, though it is not known whose initials or letters those letters would stand for. It does contradict the common belief that Mona Lisa was Lisa Gherardini. The number 72 is found under the arched bridge in the backdrop of Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting. Leonardo's interest in religion and mysticism is no secret, and it is quite possible that these hidden numbers and letters actually represent more than just the initial of the artist and the model. The number 72 is found in the Kabbalah, a form of Jewish mysticism, and in Christianity. Even when considered separately, 7 is full of symbolic association in both Judaism and Christianity, for example to the creation of the world and the number of God. And the number 2 may be a reference to the duality of male and female. The real question is, what else was Da Vinci attempting to convey with these hidden elements? It is very possible that just as the ancient civilization left monuments to show off their knowledge of science and astronomy, Leonardo did nothing by chance. Perhaps just like the ancient civilization, he simply wanted to leave his final thoughts and testimony that he too was of an enlightened nature and not only understood the elements of mysticism, but had mastered the art of life itself. The Golden Ratio. The Golden Ratio in the Mona Lisa captures the divine simplicity and harmony of the Holy Trinity. The Mona Lisa is representative of the dodecahedron, a 12-sided polyhedron that represents perfect mathematical proportions. But what is the Golden Ratio? Simply put, the Golden Ratio is a geometric proportion in the measurement of length that is pleasing to the human eye. It is often used in art, architecture, music, and even in nature. Probably Da Vinci was well acquainted with the mathematical work of Plato, who claimed in the Socratic dialogue known as Timaeus that this golden ratio was used by God for embroidering the constellation of the whole heaven. For Da Vinci, the pursuit of humanistic arts and philosophy was largely anchored in this mysterious connection to the divine. His goal in using the golden ratio was perhaps to unveil the otherwise ineffable sacred nature of geometry. Moreover, it was entirely necessary for creating a realistic art style that did not stray too far from nature. So, why this painting is so famous? This painting is the most famous painting in history for all that we have said in this video. Starting from the author, who turns out to be one of the most brilliant men in history, from the unknown identity of the character depicted, from the hidden symbols that are inside, from the possible meanings that could emerge, and from the fact that over the centuries, this painting still makes people talk about it as if it were new.